Hi everyone, today we're going to be building this 1/200 scale airport terminal for your model airport. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so what you're going to get on this kit is a couple of files, one for the main terminal and one for the regular terminal. The main terminal you're going to have, the front, the sides, etc. What I would recommend is either print the whole thing in glossy paper because this one has kind of like a steel feel to it. If you don't want to do that, then definitely you want to do the front because it's supposed to be glass. Print this on glossy paper and also print the roof on glossy paper. That's going to give it a really nice look. The sides and everything else you can print on regular paper and it's still going to look really good. Make sure for the roof that you print 2 copies of it. For the regular terminal, you're going to get the end piece. This will be the top and the sides. This one you're going to print as many as you need for the length of your regular terminal. This one we're just going to do a short one, so I just printed 2 of them. You're going to get some support, and also you're going to get this optional page. If you decide to print these guys on regular paper, but you want to make the windows glossy, what you do is you would print this one, cut the windows, and then glue them to the regular paper. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so this is what you're going to need to complete this project. You're going to need some paper to print the airport on. Either you can use a matte paper or you can use a glossy paper. It depends on the effect that you want to do. You're going to need a metal ruler, a X-Acto knife with a new blade, some kind of adhesive glue, pair of scissors, some tape, and a board where you can do your cutting. Before we start cutting and putting this thing together, you need to create a couple of boxes, one for the main terminal and another one for your regular terminal. Usually I do these boxes in balsa wood, but because of the size of this scale, I decided to go a little bigger and also cheaper. What I did is I went to my local lumber store and I purchased a piece of wood. This is what we call here in the United States a 6x2. This comes in lengths of 8, 10, 12 feet and so on and so forth. So for the main terminal, what you want to do is you want to get 2x6, in this case 2 of them together. You want to cut them at 12 inches. And what I did to keep it together, I put some screws to hold it. In case of the regular terminal, I got a 2x6 and I got a 1x6. This one the length you want to cut it as big as you want your airport to be. So in increments of 6 inches because that is how big these terminals are. So this one is a 2x6, a 1x6, and then the length you cut it to whatever. Same thing, you want to put the screws to hold it together. You don't have to use these boxes. Again, you can make these with balsa wood. The measurements are on the PDF. And even if you don't want to create this at all with a box, you can always use glue and glue the carton pieces together. I like to have the wood because it gives it some strength and it's also some weight. Okay, so let's get started with the main terminal. Again, I recommend you print this on a glossy paper because this is supposed to be glass and you get the nice shine. This part in here is an awning that has to come out. So what we need to do is we need to do a score in the back first and then in the front so this thing will fold properly. Again, a score is a cut that you're going to make with very light pressure. You don't want to go through the paper, just enough pressure to cut the paper so when you fold it, you get a nice square fold. So the first thing we need to do here, what you see that says back, 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 you make a little mark. In this case, you just want to go through the paper just in this little piece right here. Just a little mark there, a little mark in here, a little mark over here, and a mark over here. You need that because when you flip the paper, you need to find those little marks to do your scoring. So again, you take your blade, you put in one of the marks over here, and then you line up your ruler with the other mark. On some of these glossy papers, they're kind of thick and they have a coating, so what you want to do is you want to make just a couple of very light cuts. You don't want to go through the paper, remember. So we do that one, and we do this one. Again, very, very light. You don't want to go through the paper. Now you can flip it. Now we do the score in the front. Again, I like to do my scores first. So you go here, and you do the score. Again, very light. Once your scores are done, then we can start doing the cutting. Okay, now for the top here, because it's kind of rounded, you can either, if you have a good hand, you can cut it with the knife, or it's a little easier if you use your scissors. So just be a little patient, just make sure you follow the line. It's a lot, to me it's a lot easier to do it with the scissors. You have a little bit more control. Just follow. It's not too sharp, so it's easy to cut. Now, I did cut this little sign that you would put in the front if you want to. Is optional. You know, it says International Airport. What I did is I included a JPEG of this square with no letters on it. If you want to change the name of your airport, you can use that, print it, and then have your own name in there. Okay, so for this one, the first thing we need to do is fold it in the front. So this was the first score that we did. I want to show you push in there to make a nice fold. And then you want to fold it back. You see, that's why we have to make the score in the back. So what this is going to do is going to create a nice awning in there. So you go to the back. I'm going to put a little bit of glue. And then you want to glue it. You're probably going to have to press a little long here to make sure the glue makes contact. Also, to help you, you can use a little bit of tape to hold it down. I like to do, make sure the sides are tight. And then one in the middle. Okay, so that's the front of the airport. Okay, so now let's continue with the cutting. This is going to be for the front siding. Just like in the front, you want to cut this thing around. So this is the front, and what's going to happen is you're going to be gluing this part into this, but we'll look at that later. Let's go with the side. Now here you're going to have a couple of scores. One here. And one here. So then what you want to do is cut these little pieces out. Make sure that this falls correctly. Next we do the back side. Once again we do the curve. So that's our back. And then next we do the roof. This one you're going to notice is this little strip. You only have to cut that one once because that's the one that's going to be going through the middle to cover the seam. So this one, you only cut it on the first paper. You don't do that on the second one. So again, on the second one, you only want to cut the roof, not the little strip. Okay, so next let's do the support for the roof. Like always, I like to do my scores first. And then we can start doing our cutting. So what we need to do with this is fold it and then fold these two back in. And then we want to put a little bit of glue here. And glue these two together. And what you want to create is a little type of pyramid. So put it down and make sure it makes good contact. So that's going to be the main support for the roof, and these are little tabs that we're going to use to glue also the roof on the curved side. Okay, so for the roof you're going to have these three pieces. This goes in the middle and these two. So what we want to do is we're going to put some tape to join those two pieces together. You want to trim off any excess tape. And now we want to glue this piece right here on top. Just want to put a little bit of glue in there, and then put this piece right there in the middle. Make sure that it makes good contact. So there's your roof. Okay, so now you have the front, the sides, and the back. Let's start with the back, similar to what we did with the roof. Just want to put some tape to get these two pieces together. And then you want to trim the top. The bottom, actually, if you want, you can fold the tape because this is going to be covered. So you can fold that tape in to give it a little more strength. So that's the back. Now the way I like to do the front and the sides is actually to tape each front with a side. The way you know which side goes with what, this little square has to go towards the back, and here towards the back, and that's how they relate to each other. So again, similar to what we've done before. Put some tape. And then we trim the tape. So that's one front and side. And then here's the other front and side. So it's one front and side, one front and side, and your back. And now we're ready to put this whole thing together. Okay, so let's start with the final assembly. I got my block here. I got all my pieces. I got the back, the sides, the support, my little tabs, the roof, and the front. So first of all, you want to start with the back. You want to put it on your block, and then you want to check to see if there's a little bit of an overlap. Depending on how good you cut here, sometimes you may cut a little smaller or so you want to look. In this case, you see there is just a tiny gap in there, or a lip. So what you want to do is you want to center. One thing that I did is I drew a straight line through the center, lined it up with the middle here, so you can use that as your guide. And then with your pencil, then see where you need to cut maybe just a little bit off. So just make a mark there and a mark here. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a lip that we need to trim off. So what you do is you use that as a guide. And do your trimming. Like on this one, there's a little bit more here and here, so I go with the one that has the less. And then just trim it out. So we put our block again, and now we see that we have a much better fit. We're going to do something similar with the front pieces. Remember that we glued them this way. Now these guys will probably overlap here in the front, no big deal, because it's going to be covered with the other piece. What you want to see is if you need to trim back here. In this case, it's probably just a very thin strip that you're going to need to trim. So, just play with it. Now it's a nice tight fit. That looks good. Next, in the parts where you have the curb, you remember we cut these little things. What we need to do is, because the roof is going to go over this side, we want to put one of these guys in here so we can glue the roof here, here, and then in the center and give it the strength. So you want to do is you want to take one of these guys and put it somewhere in here. So you see, you can just line up the score line with that. Take another one, put it in here, and then do the same for the back. So when you put this thing here, then you have something to glue the roof on. Again, what you want to do is line it up with a little score line. Okay, so we have the back, front, and sides. Now we need the little support triangle. You want to put the top right here in the top. So you want to take some glue, put it in here, and then just line it up with the line that you have in there. Kind of goes in the middle right there. Okay, so I think we are ready to start gluing. Okay, for the final assembly, let's start putting some glue in here. Let's start with this side. Make sure it makes good contact. Start with this, continue with this side. Then we can flip it to do the back. Okay, so now what we can do is then do the front part. Which, like I said, this is going to overlap this whole thing. Okay, so now we can do the front. As I mentioned before, this is going to overlap this whole thing. So what you want to do is you want to sort of line it up. Again, this is not exactly your center line, but you can look at these guys here and kind of line it up that way. So put your glue here. Make sure you get the sides real good. And then again, just kind of line it up with those two. And make sure he makes good contact. Again, putting this thing on glossy paper makes a huge difference. So there's the front of the building. As I mentioned before, you can leave it like that, or if you want to put the name of the airport, you can use the one that I provide, which just says International Airport. Or you can take the JPEG that I provided you and then put your own name in here. So this one basically, I don't know, somewhere in the middle, maybe a little higher. You know, something like that. And now let's finish with the roof. For the roof, we want to put glue on these two big flaps on either side. And then on these flaps, and then a tad of glue on top of the triangle. And then just take your roof, line it up with a triangle. It's going to overlap here, front and back, about 1/4 inch. So as you can see, it doesn't fit exactly, it's going to overlap. So what I like to do is just, like I said, use this to line it up, and then just put it on top. And then use your fingers to kind of center it, you know, just by feel. You feel it's centered. And then you press, once you know it looks good, on either side, the front, the back, then press to make sure that it makes contact with those tabs that we have. And then the center. Okay, so there's your main terminal for the airport. Okay, so now we're going to do the terminal part of this project. For this one, you want to print as many of these drawings as the length of your terminal. Like I said, these are 6 inches, so depending on how long your terminal is, how many gates it's going to have, then you print as many of these. For this particular one, I'm going to print 2 because I'm going to have a short terminal just to show you how it looks. So once again, we start with our scores. It's a very light cut. Remember, you don't want to go through the paper. It's just for folding. Once the scores are done, we can cut. Next, we're going to do the end part of the terminal. Usually you're going to need only one of these, but I included 2 just in case you want to do something different. So on this one, there's no scores, it's just cuts. So this is an easy one. And then like we did before, we have to cut the circle. Okay, so next we're going to do the support beams. Again, you want to do the scores first. And then you can do all the rest of the cuts. Okay, so like we did before, you want to fold and fold for the support. then create your little triangle. Now this triangle is going to support one length of the roof. Now if you're going to have more of one, then what you want is for the seam to come somewhere in the middle of a full support. You don't want it to be like that. You want it to be like that. So that's why this one you need to cut in half. In other words, instead of having two supports like that, and then the roof and the roof, what I want to do is put this guy in the middle, have half and half, and you'll see how that all comes together. So first of all, you want to cut this in half and then create two smaller triangles. So usually what you want to do is, when you start your terminal and go forward, you want to put half. And then start adding full supports until you get to the last one, and then you should have another half support. So the beginning should be a half support, a bunch of full supports, and then at the end is going to be a half support. Okay, so let's put this terminal together. Like I mentioned to you before, this is going to be a short one, so I only printed 2 of these and cut them. You have your support. As you can see, this is what I meant by having a full support when you have a union in there. You have your end piece. Like we did before, these guys are going to be glued to the back of this for the support. And then you have your block. In this case, I'm using a 2x6 and a 1x6. So let's get started. Okay, so first I get my wood, and what I do is I put a line through the middle, and this is what's going to guide my supports. So you can start by putting glue in here, and then gluing in there your support beams. Now this is a little shorter than 12 inches, so that's why this thing is sticking out that way. So now we're going to start with the sides and the roof. I would recommend that you put some tape behind it so it keeps them together. It's easier to handle. So then just bring your pieces together. then go ahead and trim the excess tape. So what you want to do is the side that is going to be facing the end, you want to make sure that little support thingy, matches that. Because if you do the other ways, it may not look too good. So it's your choice. So what we're going to do is this is going to be our end. So we can start gluing this side first. Now what I want to do is I want to glue this side first and then let it sit there for a little bit for the glue to set, because the roof is going to be kind of bowing up, and if it's not set, then it's going to come apart. So let's put the glue in here. And then just put it on top like that. And make sure here at the end you have just a little bit of an overlap. Because what happens is when you put your inside or end piece, you want it to make a nice, good, tight fit. Same thing like we did before, you may have to trim a little bit if the size of the wood is not 100% correct. So let's wait until this piece is dry and set, and we'll be right back. Okay, so while the glue dries over there, we can work a little bit on the end. Just like we did before, we need to put this little support tabs. So what you do is just put a little bit of glue here. And here. And then just make sure that the score lines line up with the circle. Okay, so this part's going to go at the end. This is going to hold the roof, and we'll do that next. Okay, so I gave it a few seconds for the glue to set. Now that we have our end part, we want to put some glue here. And then we can glue the end part on this side. Make sure it makes good contact. So now to finish, what we need to do is then glue this side here, and then the two little tabs and the support. So let's put some glue in here. A little glue on the tabs, and then a little bit of glue on top of the triangle. And then bring this over and glue it in place. Make sure the tabs make good contact. And put a little pressure to make sure also the support makes a good contact. And there you go. There is your airport terminal. Okay, so here's the finished product all put together. You got your main terminal, and then you have your terminal where you're going to add the gates and the pads in the different planes. I hope you enjoyed it.